information we have got. And that's what we've based our decision on. And
we need to move on because we've got more questions. But the important thing here actually is not whether this committee is satisfied. It's whether the Jewish community living in Birmingham feels safe and that the police of West Midlands Police are policing without fear or favour and protecting the Jewish community. That is what is absolutely of essence in these questions.
And that is absolutely what we have done from day one, and we continue to do, and we are absolutely 100% committed to do.
Good job. You can't see the shaking of heads behind you, Chief Constable.
Both in terms of this fixture itself and all the ongoing liaison that we've had and the service that we've provided to members of the Jewish community, particularly in light of things that have happened nationally and internationally over the last couple of months after this football match. We can absolutely assure you of that.
Can I move on to Paul Kohler?
Two quick questions. Was this information about potential vigilantes attacking Maccabi fans, was that raised in the SAGs, any of the SAGs? I can't see it in the minutes.
I don't know the answer to that question because I wasn't at the SAGs. So
we can ask the council, City Council.
Okay. It does feel a bit like we're going to name Maccabi fans, but not anyone else.
It's not covered in the peer review, which totally analyses and highlights behaviour on behalf of presumed behaviour on behalf of Maccabi Tel Aviv, but it does never talk about the threat to the Jewish community or to Israeli players or Israeli fans if they came to Birmingham. There's never analysed.
It's an appendix to the review. It is in the review.
The other quick question I wanted to ask, Chief Constable Roberts, when did you become aware of the conversation that the Chief Inspector had with the Dutch police?
So we conducted the peer review. It was requested by Chief Constable Guildford and Gavin Stevens as MPCC lead. Clearly there was a lot of consternation. So
when did you become aware of that conversation?
Well, the review was on the 20th of October.
You didn't become aware before then?
We may have had a conversation about it, but not in any great detail.
You told us earlier that you heard him from, because you didn't forward Lord Mann's report, because it was contradicted by information you only heard from on the 20th of October. So why did you not forward Lord Mann's report? It can't be for information you hadn't yet heard.
I was aware that West Midlands Police had been in contact with the Dutch police, because we brokered the contact via the UKPU. So we put them in contact. I had an overview that there had a conversation, that there had been concerns raised, and the brief had gone to West Midlands Police. So I'm aware that they'd had the direct contact with the Dutch police.
You told us that you didn't forward Lord Mann's report because it'd been contradicted by what?
No, I said it'd been superseded.
Superseded. Well, but you didn't even know its contents till the 20th of October.
I was aware of that there'd been a conversation.
Yes, and but you know what had happened in the conversation.
And it had been well publicised anyway. I think anyone with a passing interest knew that there had been issues in Amsterdam and that had been flagged up as an issue. I read the detail of the conversation between West Midlands Police and the Dutch police when we went and did the peer review. So there's a difference between having awareness. The detail in Lord Mann review, the relevant bit was a report from the Dutch police, the activities that went on and the criminal activity as summarised by Lord Mann. The Dutch police were in contact with West Midlands Police, so that's the direct intelligence to base a risk assessment on.
So you simply didn't forward Lord Mann's report because you knew there'd been a conversation between Chief Inspector and the Dutch police?
I clearly knew the content of Lord Mann's report, and I knew that the West Midlands Police had been in direct contact with the Dutch police.
And that was enough to supersede sending that information to, and you stand by that?
Yes.
I've got Robbie Moore, then Jenny Reid, then we move on to Joe White.
Yes, thank you. I think what we're all struggling to understand is the lack of continuity between what has been reported by the mayoralty in the Dutch authorities and what's then been reiterated to us through the correspondence you sent to us since the last committee. So the Dutch police are clearly saying in their evidence that's been provided on the Wednesday night before that effectively the instigators were threats of aggression and threats towards Israelis through social media postings. And that's quite clearly in the evidence that's been provided by the Dutch authorities. It says various social media posts, messages with aggression and threats were aimed at Maccabi supporters. It goes on to say that pro-Palestinian texts were sprayed, painted with graffiti onto the arena. It then goes on to say that there were slide projections aimed at the arena that were filming against anti-Israeli messaging. It then goes on to say that there were about 50 Maccabi supporters that were specifically targeted. But then none of that is referenced within any of the correspondence that has come back to this committee. In fact, it says the contrary, in that it was Israeli fans that were targeting effectively the Muslim community. So why is there such a contradictory of evidence that has been provided? That's what simply I cannot get my head around, because that's what, in essence, is incredibly worrying to the committee, that there's just everything is contradicting itself. Who are we to believe? It seems very much to me that it's almost like a retrofitting of the evidence to try and back up ultimately the decision that was concluded.
I can speak to the peer review, and the peer review clearly says there are conflicting reports surrounding this disorder. There were strong accusations of anti-Semitism, with attackers targeting the Maccabi supporters because they are Israeli/Jewish. Other reports state that the Maccabi supporters were ripping down Palestinian flags, etc. So certainly in the peer review, and that was information from West Midlands Police, we acknowledge there was hostile acts on both sides. And I think I'll go on to clarify, it is very difficult to actually give a definitive of who did what first.
Was that presented to the SAG? Was that
No, that was the peer review.
Peer review, but was it presented to the SAG? What the Dutch police said about the attacks on and the threats to Maccabi fans?
So no answer. The point being, it's very unclear to us that the evidence that's been presented by the Dutch authorities is very different to the analogy of events that took place, and dare I say, which side was against one another in the evidence that's been provided by West Midlands.
Can I just clarify, what evidence are you referring to?
Right, so
the Dutch police, have they provided that HASC?
So the mayoralty within for the Dutch.
There are a number of reports that relate to Amsterdam. So you've got an inspectorate report, you've got the mayoral report. So there are a range of reports. I think
it's the report that came out, which was dated the 11th of November 2024. It recounts the troubles on the Amsterdam match. It goes through the course of the Wednesday evening and night and the police action that was taken.
This is a report that was commissioned by the mayor of Amsterdam.
Correct.
Could I correct the record that was issued by the mayor, but is written on behalf of the Chief Constable and the Chief Crown Prosecutor. It was not written by the mayor. She issued it on their behalf.
Okay. So why are there different perspectives? I'd imagine because it was a 3-day, very complicated policing operation. All we can do is report on what the Dutch commanders briefed us personally on.
That's not all you can do. You can go look at the other bits of evidence.
Look at the published report.